kids, it's time to sit because Battleground Casual is on. Here's Aaron or Matt.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest episode of Battleground Casual, the show where we discuss movies, not debate them. My name is Aaron Connole, and I'm happy to be your host for this evening. And first, I'm going to bring in the man that I am naming, I guess, an official, unofficial second co-host of the show, since he is affiliated with TMG. So when Mr. Matt Beer is not with us, Mr. Jake Tato is our step-in. Jake, how are you doing tonight, man?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We are going to be, of course, as the title says, discussing the Oscars tonight. We're going to be going through the telecast and kind of play-by-play, or not fully play-by-play, but we're going to be discussing the things that went down, not just who won, but the moments, the performances, the slaps. Now, there were no slaps this time, unless you were broadcasting through Hulu, in which case you got bitch slapped by Adrian Brody's speech. But joining us, we have two guests who not only watch the Oscars telecast, but for the sake of building chemistry, they watch the Oscars telecast, Jesus, with Jake, because they had a whole group party. I was invited to the group party, but like the good friend of the group, I ignored the text until the next day when I realized I had ignored the text, and then I responded, "Shit, dude, my bad." The man I ignored, of course, is our local social butterfly, Mr. JPO Jordan. How's it going, man? Do you forgive me?
Being left on red. It's the story of my life. I needed a little time, and that's about it, as much time as I needed. So yeah, forgive me.
Oh, thank you, man. Also joining us, Jacob Barber.
I didn't even know you were invited, so we're still good.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah, as long as no one else is feeling got hurt. Legitimately, I left my phone upstairs because like I'm the nerd in my family that actually watches the Oscars. But then when it ended, I went upstairs and went straight to bed because I had work the next day. So legitimately, I just like at some point at work, I was like, oh, let me like check the notifications. There's a number on my phone. Let me see who texted me. Oh shit, Jordan. And then I looked at it and I was like, why was I sent a link? Oh, they were probably watching the Oscars, weren't they? Fuck, I'm an asshole. Look at me. Always nice to be invited though. With that said, of course, we're going to break down the Oscars later. But first, before we get into that, we're going to do our first opening segment, which is Buy or Sell. I have put together some of the news stories from the week, some of which broke earlier today as we were recording this. I'm going to go ahead and give the story to the gentlemen, and they will tell me simply if they buy or sell. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, following up on a story that we covered on our previous episode, which was a couple of weeks ago, director Zach Cregger is officially directing a Resident Evil reboot. Sony Pictures, who owns the distribution rights to the franchise, have officially boarded the project and given it the green light. Zach Cregger's take on Resident Evil is set to be released September 18th, 2026. For those of you who think the name sounds familiar, Cregger directed the 2022 sleeper hit Barbarian and recently produced Companion, starring Jack Quaid. His take on Resident Evil is written by Zach Cregger and co-written by Shay Hatton, who is one of the creative minds currently behind the John Wick franchise. According to Cregger, the reboot harkens back to the game closer than any previous adaptation, although that's all that we've heard, and that's all anybody ever says when they reboot something. There have been 3 franchise adaptations of Resident Evil thus far: the original Paul W.S. Anderson, Mila Jovovich movies, which I've told are pretty much nothing like the games. We had the Johannes Roberts reboot, Welcome to Raccoon City, previously, and we also had the Netflix TV show, which most of you might not even realize there was a Netflix TV show reboot of Resident Evil. Jake, I'll go to you. Buy or sell Zach Cregger taking on Resident Evil?
Yeah, I think I'll echo my sentiments here. I do love that of all the YouTube sketch comedy troupes, one of them have ended up as a horror director in some capacity or another. So you got Cregger from Whitest Kids, Peel doing horror stuff as well. And then, I mean, Donald Glover, I guess, not necessarily doing horror shit directly, but to do.
Good. I bet you one day he might.
Yeah, somewhere in the pocket, I'm sure he's got it in him. That said, yep, like I said, I've always loved Kreger since Whitest Kids You Know. And I'm not a huge horror cat, but I'm a big video game cat, so this is definitely one that intrigues me. It is a big buy.
JPO.
Is there a third option? Can I buy it for like a discounted price? Is that cool?
Only after theaters, but sure, we can put it on layaway.
All right, put it on layaway. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm excited because it is the Barbarian guy. I enjoy Barbarian. He's got another movie in the pipelines with Josh Brolin. That might be promising. I don't know. There hasn't been a great Resident Evil movie yet. This might be it. I just looked at the co-writer of it too is a guy named Shay something, who's wrote a couple of Shay Hatton, who's wrote a couple of John Wicks, but he's also wrote a lot of Zack Snyder films, and usually and that's where it's lacking is the writing. Usually in Zack Snyder films, so that doesn't necessarily hype me up more. So yeah, like it's one of those where like on paper I'm in the middle of like, all right, let's see casting, let's see maybe that first trailer, and then kind of go from there. I do think there is room for a really good Resident Evil movie here. I maybe would have given it a little more time at Raccoon City. I guess it's been enough time, but yeah, so I'll buy it for discounted price.
All right, Barber.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle because I'm not the biggest horror guy and I'm not a video game guy, so I don't really know much about Resident Evil. In fact, I've never seen any of the movies, I'm pretty sure. And if I have, I don't remember them. So I'm kind of like I'm in the middle, but leaning more towards buy because I did like Barbarian, and so yeah, but I'm like in the middle. I don't care that much, but if the marketing is good, the trailer is good, I'll go see it.
I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to sell this, not because I think Kreger's a bad director, but this is a franchise that, as I said, it's been rebooted 3 times. It's done TV. It's had a 6-film franchise. It already had a film reboot separate from that. It's a franchise IP that's been beaten into the ground already. I don't know how many people are actually interested in seeing more Resident Evil. And Kreger is too talented to get stuck in a franchise. Now, if he is passionate about this and it's what he wants to do, best of luck to him. But I just think, especially given how good even his producing work is with Companion, I just think there's a better use for his time. With that said,
over the director of Miss March. Yeah.
All right.
With that said, we'll move on to the second bit of news today. With confirmation from Deadline that actress Janet McTeer and actor Papa Asiedu are in final negotiations to take on the roles of Professor Minerva McGonagall and Professor Severus Snape in the upcoming HBO Harry Potter adaptation. Previously, it was confirmed that American actor John Lithgow is taking on the role of Albus Dumbledore. The actor himself has confirmed this. Papa Asiedu's name has been around for a while. He was one of the first actors rumored to be negotiating for the series. Now it seems as though we are simply just a pen and paper signature away from the two joining. With that said, JPO, do you buy or sell the 2 actors joining?
Papa West? Well, who's the guy? Who?
I said JPO. Oh, okay.
No. I'm saying who's the actor? It's Janet McTeer and Papa West. Who that be?
He is an HBO actor.
I'm buying for even less than the Resident Evil thing. Then, yeah, I'm not too familiar with either one of them. I'll trust it because I love Lithgow and I trust HBO actually to a large degree. So I'll buy it based on those. But I'm not necessarily sold. I'm sold by the company, not necessarily on the names. That's just because I'm familiar with them enough. I feel like McTeer was what, Albert Nobbs or even McTeer, I'm not sure
of. Barber?
I can buy McTeer, and I think I'm going to sell the other one because it's going to sound bad, but
don't say it.
He just doesn't have the look. Like if you're going to make it a faithful adaptation, like make it a faithful adaptation. Like find somebody who looks like the character is being described. Now, am I open to being Proven wrong? Absolutely. Do I want to be proven wrong if he takes on the role? Absolutely. But it's like, come on, let's. It doesn't always have to happen. Like if a character is described one way, you should try to cast somebody that at least
I
somewhat
see.
resembles.
There it is.
So.
Oh no! I'm just gonna shut
up. Yeah, I'm not going to say that I've never seen the point of view that people take when it comes to casting with like adaptations. I also think sometimes, and I should very much clarify, I do not believe in my heart that Jacob is using it this way. He would not be on this channel if I thought he was. But unfortunately, I think people often use this terminology of like, we'll keep it to the books as a way to sort of blindly be racist without being racist. And unfortunately, that is where Papa Asiju falls. He is black. Let's not dance around it. It's the truth. With that said, though, I buy it just because I trust the people running the show. Specifically, the people running it are writers and showrunners who worked on Succession, and that show was such a success for HBO and it's developed so many great actors, namely 2 Academy nominees this year who we'll get to. That I trust their casting. Papa Asiju already has a history of working with HBO. He's been a part of a couple of their shows. He was also in The Outrun earlier last year with Saoirse Ronan. Not that I've seen anything that he's in, but just he does have a strong background with the company. Janet McTeer, I believe, has already worked with John Lithgow because she was on The Old Man with Jeff Bridges, which I'm pretty sure John Lithgow's in as well, right? Did anyone watch that show?
Nah, it looks serious.
Okay, well that makes sense why I got
they are both on there. They are both on there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So they've already worked together, which I think is good for the rapport. So I'm gonna buy it. Tato, any thoughts before we move on?
Nothing in particular. Not very familiar with either actor. The Black Snape of it all doesn't bother me at all. In 2001, I watched a movie that would become a cornerstone of my franchise called Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, in which it is discussed that we're talking about fictional characters. Characters. So that that stuff never, like, I really don't give a crap about that. If it's a good performance, awesome. But I do hear what Barber is saying, and like Snape is described as very much like a fucking pale ass white dude a lot. So I do get that, but like I also don't fucking I don't care. So sounds right, dope. Well, I'm in any which way. I'll watch the franchise, I'm sure.
All right, well then we'll go ahead and move it along to the next one. Again, all these first few stories are reported by Deadline. They had a big week this week. And the next thing that's up for it is singer Charlie XCX was first rumored to be speaking with Greta Gerwig for a role in an upcoming picture of hers. That was followed then by another rumor coming out from Deadline claiming that she's apparently in negotiations to join specifically Greta Gerwig's upcoming Narnia picture to play the White Witch. Now, it is worth noting that Charlie XCX does have minimal acting experience. Arguably, her longest extensive role was her guest spot on SNL when she hosted. But people have taken chances on actors for less or more, so we'll see what she can do. Barber, buy or sell Charlie XCX joining Narnia?
Sell. I don't know who she is. I haven't heard much of her music. I know who she is. I shouldn't say that. I know who she is. Just I'm not familiar with her music. I'm not familiar with her. If there's any, like you said, minimal acting. Not even sure if I want a Narnia reboot. I like the first one, so it's not like one of those franchises where I'm like, what should come back? Narnia. So I'm just not excited for it. Like I'm sure if the trailers look good, the marketing looks good, I'm sure I might check it out. I do like Greta Gerwig as a director. This just isn't a franchise that like speaks to me.
I'm going to sell it. I think Greta Gerwig doing Narnia is a good move. I think that it's a good way to get her into a franchise without actually pinning her into a franchise, if that makes sense, because she's rebooting it in her own vision. But just Charlie XCX is not an actress. Every indication that I've heard through reporting is that Ariana Grande succeeding in Wicked seems to lead Hollywood to think that they can cast pop stars in movies, and maybe hopefully it'll translate to box office success. Another, not on the official rundown, but another rumor I'd heard this week from Jeff Snyder is that apparently Disney's top choice for a Rapunzel remake is Sabrina Carpenter, who admittedly does have acting experience with Disney. But again, it plays into the idea that pop stars could be a way to gain access to box office. I can't buy it if I've never seen her act, and not all of them translate. Tato?
I will buy this on trusting Greta Gerwig alone. She just seems like she's earned my trust with Barbie and stuff, even though like I'm not super deep on the filmography. I do want to go check out more of her work, so there's that. On the Sabrina Carpenter of it all, I will say she was solid as a kid actress in fucking Girl Meets World. Like, she was probably the best. She was definitely the best of the kid actresses, and you could see she straight up has acting chops, so that one I will definitely not turn my nose down at either.
JPO?
I'll slightly sell it just to sell something here, because again, when it's so fresh, I'll buy most things. Because, like, again, I trust, like Tato said, I trust Gerwig is not going to do it just to do it. I can see a studio being like, hey, let's find something. I don't know why I made him Spanish, but let's find something for Charlie XCX. Let's find something for fucking Doja Cat, because they're hot. But, and also we've had plenty of great pop stars in the past. Like, Timberlake's proven himself. J-Lo, although doesn't pick a lot of great scripts, which he does, like, she can be really good. So, I trust that Gerwig's not going to do it just to do it, especially if it's a pivotal part like The White Witch. But I also don't care about Narnia, unless Lonely Island do a new Narnia song. But then I'll probably just watch that. So yeah, I'll still just because I'm not excited about the franchise or Charlie. I tried looking up her SNL just now because I know I saw it, because I see most SNLs, and I don't like. I remember her thing with Sandberg again. Funny enough, she did a song with Sandberg, which was kind of sort of funny. But yeah, otherwise her skits didn't ring out to me either. So,
All right. Then we'll move on here. We have a couple of horror stories that I'll bundle together just to sort of speed things up. First off, we have confirmation that Ready or Not 2 is happening with Radio Silence duo Matt Bettinelli Oakland and Tyler Gillette returning to direct. The original writers of the first film, Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy, are also returning. Star Samara Weaving returns, and newcomer Catherine Newton has joined the cast, although plot details are currently under wraps. Secondly, we have the Scream franchise, which Radio Silence are very familiar with. This week it was announced that David Arquette is returning to the franchise, joining Scream 7. Currently, details are under wraps regarding how his character is involved prior to or post his death in Scream 5. However, he is not the first previous cast member to return, as a hodgepodge of various old cast members have already been confirmed, including Matthew Lillard, Scott Foley, and more recent additions like Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown. They also join a new ensemble cast that includes the likes of Isabel May, McKenna Grace, and Joel McHale. I'm going to buy the Catherine Newton one. I think she works really well in supporting roles. I don't know if I necessarily love her as a lead, but I think she's a really great supporting actress. I think she brings a good sense of levity to things. So I think Ready or Not is the perfect type of tonal thing for her. And she worked with them on Abigail, and I thought she fit really well into that movie. So I buy her here. I'm going to sell Arquette coming back to Scream. Scream is one of the few horror franchises where I've actually seen every entry in it, and I do enjoy the majority of them. I have no fucking idea what they're doing with this movie, and I already wasn't really sold on it because as much as Kevin Williamson is a legend of the franchise, he's not really a proven director. Like, him coming back to direct just felt like we need a body to do this, and let's get a guy that this fans alike. So I already was kind of worried about the film in general, but this, like, bringing back cast members that seemingly have no reason to be here. Why are all these old, dead cast members coming back? why are the twins in this film when seemingly they're completely and wholly connected to two cast members that aren't in this, in addition to a very vast, expansive ensemble that I think is even bigger than the new additions that were brought into 4 and 5 at this point. It leaves me all very confused. So I'll buy Ready or Not and sell Scream. Tato, I'll go to you next.
I'm pretty easy. I'll buy. I didn't see Ready or Not, but I will go Catherine Newton. MCU, so that's always dope. And keen-eyed Battleground watchers will know. I very much was high on Catherine Newton's performance in Detective Pikachu. So that was always fun there. And then the Scream of it all, like the franchise has just earned my trust on the whole. If this one doesn't go, that's fine, but I'm going to end up seeing it anyway. And maybe like I'm hoping that the cat is laying down some like crazy red herrings and it's all just a trip to make a good movie somehow. We'll see. Maybe it will end up being just a hodgepodge of shit and you'll be right. That's probably the more likely scenario, but hey, I'm the ever optimist.
JPO?
Okay, so Ready or Not, I'll trepidatiously buy just because I really liked it, by the way. It is one of those on paper, I'm like, might have been a fine one-off. You know what I mean? The story, and especially too involving Samara again. Because again, it just screams like, how do they shoehorn her back in? Is she gonna is Newton now the bride? Is she gonna kind of guide her? Be like, I've been here before, kid. I don't know. So, but I trust again in that tandem. Like you said, Abigail, she worked out pretty well, and so I'll buy both on that. Now, as a huge Scream guy, this is really weird news because again, they are casting several dead characters. I'm stealing this from other people. This is not my original idea. I know they floated around fan theory. They did it in Scream 3 where there's like a voice box. Now we're living in the world of AI now. Is the killer gonna try to AI? As in you're gonna see our cat, because we've seen Skeet and Ghost Vision before. So we're gonna maybe start doing some AI shit where they're fucking with them, in their minds, with these past characters, especially Neve Campbell. You know what I mean? Showing her Dewey, maybe getting her to pause for a second or whatnot. So that's one of the guess right there. And a bet again though, it's no longer the Ready or Not guys. It's Kevin Williamson, who's only credited so far. While he's written really good, the only directed credit is Teaching Mrs. Tingle. So that even kind of throws me off a little bit because I really like where we're going with the duo of Ready or Not in the last couple of Screams. That's sad that we lost them. I'm glad we have the twins. I mean, you could just simply say they're just on the other side of town. I'm sad we were missing out on the sisters, but yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. And so far, Scream's batting 100 for me. So I just hope we can continue that. I hope this isn't the first time where it's like, oh shit, they turned into Halloween and Freddy and Jason, who all have bad movies in their lineup. So far, Scream's batting 100.
Barber?
Yeah, I'll buy both of them. I think the Ready or Not too. I like JPO. I also thought it would be a nice one-off, but I also thought the same thing about Smile. I thought Smile could be a nice one-off, and then Smile 2. I absolutely loved it. So prove me wrong. Yeah, absolutely. And then Scream. Yeah, like JPO said, we live in a world now with all this technology, and I think there is a way you can make it work. So I'll buy it now. If there's more details that come out that just kind of say some ridiculous nonsense, then maybe I'll go back to the other side and maybe sell it. But for now, I'm going to buy it because I do like David Arquette, and I think there is a way that you can bring his character back into the series without making it seem too ridiculous.
Yeah, and I love the former WWE champ, David. Thanks for your cameo, David. I paid for it, so I just want to talk to David.
All right, we'll move on here to the next one just to get through these last few quickly and then get on to the Oscars. This one, I'm going to pitch you two stories at once, and then I simply want you to pick the one you buy more. As between different sources of reporting, we have two major leads seemingly for the James Bond job. Obviously, in the last few weeks, Amazon have bought out the Broccoli family to take creative control of the franchise and are seemingly moving very, very quickly. The first set of reporting, which comes from a mix of articles from The Wrap and Variety, are claiming that Christopher Nolan is the lead choice for Amazon MGM to turn to take over the franchise. Purportedly, this could also include a provision that would see his brother Jonathan Nolan take over a television side of things after his previous work on Westworld and Fallout. Christopher Nolan was previously approached to reboot the franchise under the Broccoli family when they first joined MGM. However, Nolan did not end up taking the job because he wanted final cut on the Bond films, which he was not going to be given. Amazon are apparently fully willing to trust and give Nolan the ability to have final cut. However, it is unknown when work on the film would begin, as Nolan is currently in the middle of shooting The Odyssey, which will be working on until next year, and apparently already had a film in place to work on with Universal Pictures, a film that is rumored to star Robert Downey Jr. So when work on this would begin, they don't know. And it is a question merely of how long are Amazon willing to wait for Christopher Nolan. The separate side of this is Harry Potter and Paddington producer David Heyman has reportedly been approached to come in and take over the Bond franchise, a la a Kevin Feige. This reporting comes through Jeff Snyder. Apparently, they want him to step away from Harry Potter, where he is still tangentially attached, although it's currently unknown to what role he will be playing going forward in the franchise. He is still the creative head per Warner Brothers involvement. But again, he's had no real hand in developing the show so far, so it's not known if he will stay on. Amazon wants him to come in. They've taken a meeting with him already, and purportedly he would be willing to convince director Alfonso Cuarón, who he worked with on the Harry Potter franchise previously, to come in and help him jumpstart his version of the Bond franchise. It's worth noting that in both instances, Nolan or Heyman and Cuarón, that the creatives would have a hand in choosing who the James Bond would be, although currently it is not known who that pick would be. As per the Heyman reporting, it said that there's no real name in mind. They would only start that when they take over the job. On the Nolan front, the only reporting that we have is that previously, when Nolan worked with Amazon on negotiating a deal for James Bond, apparently he had pitched one of the young gentlemen he worked with in the lead of Dunkirk, specifically Fionn Whitehead and Jack Lowden, as choices to take over for James Bond. With that said, Tato, who's your preference lie with? David Heyman, Alfonso Cuarón, or Christopher Nolan?
I'll go Nolan.
JPO?
I was going to say Battleground. I expect the other one was fight. But no, I'll top of head. I'll go with Nolan. That track record and like kind of his style, I think has a great potential.
Barber?
Yeah, I'll go with Nolan as well. He's batting 1,000 for me. I think every movie that he's made has hit for me. Alfonso Cuarón, while he's made my favorite Harry Potter movie, that's about it that I can say for him. I like Gravity and Roma, but they're not like up there for me where some of Nolan's movies are.
See, I'm going to bat the other way. I'm actually going to go with Heyman and Cuarón. Obviously, if Christopher Nolan got the job, I think Christopher Nolan would make a great film. But I think the thing that Christopher Nolan has that very few directors have is a blank check with Universal. They made almost $1 billion off an Oscar bait film, essentially, and that went on to win Best Picture. I don't know why he would want to walk away from that. He's already kind of made a Bond film in Tenet, and obviously he could just make something similar again if he wanted to with Universal. Whereas I like David Heyman as a producer very much. I think he's done, I'd say a 95% great job with the Harry Potter franchise. The only real bad appointment he made was letting J.K. Rowling write the screenplays for Fantastic Beasts. And for a lot of people don't realize, he's also the producer of the Paddington franchise. He's the main producing head behind those, and obviously those have been greatly successful for him as well. I like the idea more so of putting a producer in charge who has connections to creatives than just straight up putting a creative in charge. That said, it's not like I'm going to be sitting here saying, oh no, if Christopher Nolan takes the Bond job. But if I were picking, I'd probably go with David Heyman. All right, on to the next one. While his next film is set to come out later this year, director Damien Chazelle has apparently already picked up a project following that one, as it's reported he is signing on to Leonardo DiCaprio's Evel Knievel film, a movie that DiCaprio has been working on for the last couple of years that would see him star as the titular Evel Knievel. The movie, where was it? I had it right here. Damn it.
I'll wait until Jay finds out about the shit that was thrown at Evel Knievel in his life.
Okay, well, I lost it. There was a tentative title, but I've lost where it is in the article, and I don't feel like scrolling anymore for it. But the movie is apparently put together by Leonardo DiCaprio. The film was written by William Monahan and Terrence Winter. For those who aren't familiar with those names, William Monahan wrote The Departed with Leonardo DiCaprio, and Terrence Winter wrote The Wolf of Wall Street, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, among other credits on both sides. Chazelle would take over the project as director, although it is not known if he would have any hand in finishing the screenplay, as he is also a writer. DiCaprio would be playing, as I said earlier, Evel Knievel, and they already have recent Oscar winner Adrian Brody in negotiations to play the part of Shelley Saltman, an author and sports promoter who was viciously attacked by Knievel with an aluminum bat, seemingly with an actor of Brody's stature being attached. The role would have a grander part in the story. JPO, buy or sell Evel Knievel with Damien Chazelle, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Adrian Brody?
Buy. Might be weirdly not my biggest buy yet, because again, I like Damien Chazelle. I like and trust whatever Leo picks. And I think Evel Knievel is an interesting tale that I know has a fan base, and might be a really cool pick. So, yeah, this is a buy.
Barber?
Yeah, I'll buy it. A great director, great actors, and if the screenplay is dope, then I'm all in. Yeah, it's a guy that I would definitely want to know more about. So buy.
Yep, absolutely same page. I buy it. On paper, that's a package that absolutely works. Damien Chazelle, for me, is a director, that's almost at 1,000. The only thing he did that I haven't loved is Babylon. I think Babylon is fine. Sorry, TikTok. I know you have a weird love for that film, but I don't agree with you. However, everything, legitimately, his 3 films prior to that for me are 10 out of 10 films. I don't care if he had one I didn't love. I still am on board for what he does. All I know is that he has a prison film coming out later this year, and it was my number 1 most anticipated of the year. So Evel Knievel being a follow-up, again, not what I would have predicted, but an interesting take. All 3 of you have J's. God damn it. Jake.
Yep, that's a buy. I do joke about Jay's distaste for Whiplash, but if that's a scene, if Leo beating up Adrian Brody with a bat is a scene, like, I think Damien Chazelle is probably among the top 5 people I would want directing that scene. So, big buy.
All right, then we'll move on to our penultimate story here. As this week, more details accidentally leaked about Kendrick Lamar and South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone's upcoming film. Through Paramount's website, details of the film were accidentally leaked, including a poster of the film that you can find online if you go and search. This information has since been pulled down, so not all of it is finalized, although the fact that it was pulled quickly means it could necessarily be partially true. The film's title at the moment is Whitney Springs, and the description of the movie, which we did already know, is it depicts the past and present coming to a head when a young black man who is interning as a slave reenactor at a living history museum discovers that his white girlfriend's ancestors once owned his. Previously thought to only be an actor and producer on the film, the poster reveals that Kendrick Lamar is in fact also acting in the film. It's not known if he would be the lead or a supporting character, but his name is on the poster. Actress Chloe East, who recently broke through with her role in Heretic, is also a part of the cast, presumably playing the girlfriend, the girlfriend in the description. Kendrick Lamar originally wrote the pitch for the film and gave it to Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who then picked it up and continued it. The most interesting piece of information, though, is that purportedly the film may now be sent to Paramount Plus. The movie was originally scheduled for a theatrical release on July 4th, 2025. However, the poster that leaked has Paramount Plus branding on it. The reasoning through rumor that this may happen is because Kendrick Lamar is adamant that a July 4th release, it matters to the premise of the film. Paramount are willing to stick by that July release, but are scared of the potential results of how it would perform, given the fact that this year's July also features Jurassic World Rebirth, Fantastic Four First Steps, and Superman. So a streaming release that saves on distribution costs may be safer. Barber, buy or sell the details of the movie and it being a streaming film?
I'm going to buy the details. I want to sell the fact that it's a streaming film. Do a dual release. There's going to be music in this movie, and I want this music to be, eligible for these awards because Kendrick Lamar is such a good artist that I think he's going to, come up with some bangers. I've been listening to him a lot lately. The dude can write. So I'm gonna buy the details. I want to sell the streaming, but if it's like a dual release or if it's gets like a short theatrical release, just so it can meet that eligibility, please.
I'm gonna do exactly what you did. I buy the actual premise of the film. Again, it was also on my most anticipated list. I sell if it's just a streaming release. I can't act like I don't see why. And again, if they're going to stick by making it a July release, July is probably not the best month to put this out, considering what you're competing against. But I agree. It should have at least the chance at eligibility for awards. I also think it depends on how good it is. But I absolutely could see this. If it's good enough, I could see this being a sleeper just because of the premise. And I mean, look, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, like you can disregard them as, the South Park guys, but they're also the two that broke through at the Tonys with the Book of Mormon. Like they absolutely can write stuff that is of that quality when they want to. Tato.
Yeah, Trey and Matt have trust forever. Kendrick is awesome. I initially wouldn't have cared much about the streaming, but Barber's turned me around on that. I obviously want the Oscar eligibility there too, so I will echo all of your sentiments on that.
And JPO?
I'll buy that for $1. Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and buy it based on everything that's been said. And I don't hate the streaming thing. That might just be me because I like watching movies without pants on.
No, I don't mind that it's a streaming movie. I just want if it could have that also limited short run, just so it can meet that eligibility requirements. Because Kendrick Lamar winning an Oscar for music, I'm in.
Well, we'll move on then to our final story before we get into the Oscars here. As earlier this week, it was rumored that director Chad Stahelski of the John Wick franchise had taken a meeting with Marvel over the upcoming Blade film, until Stahelski himself went on Josh Horowitz's Happy, Sad, Confused podcast and confirmed that he had actually spoken to Marvel about Blade. Now, he could not say any more than that or if there's any chance of an agreement, but it is certainly as official as it's ever going to get with his discussion of it. Now, going back to the rumor that had gone around previously, the rumor indicated that the reason that the script has not been finalized and was continuously delayed is because Kevin Feige has given Mahershala Ali producing power on the film because Ali was the one who brought the concept to Kevin Feige, and the two of them needing to sign off on the film has what led to delays. Apparently at various points, either one or the other saw an issue with what was pitched before they eventually page one rewrote it and have now come to a conclusion. The writers of this screenplay are purportedly Eric Pearson, who has done a bunch of script doctoring and writing for Marvel. Credits with his name include Ant-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, and Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four coming out later this year. He co-wrote the script with Michael Green, best known for his work on Logan, Blade Runner 2049, and the Hercule Poirot trilogy over the last few years. Again, if Stahelski does sign on, this would be definitely a switch up from the previous choices of directors, possibly indicating a change in tone and approach to the film, putting it somewhere closer to the 90s films rather than what was originally thought to be done with Bassam Tariq and Yann Dimanche. I'm going to buy this simply because I want to see Stahelski do something outside of John Wick, but my tentativeness is the fact that he's only ever done John Wick. Aside from doing 4.5 John Wick films, because he did do the reshoots on the upcoming Ballerina film, he's only ever tried to develop a Highlander film, which has been in various states of pre-production and installment due to the continuous drop-on and drop-off of Henry Cavill and his actively busy schedule. So I like Stahelski overall. I want to see him do another film. I want to see him do a great film. And Blade obviously could make a great fit for the martial arts style that he brings. I just, the one bit of nervousness is just he's never done anything but John Wick. And personally, David Leitch is a good director, but I don't think he's made a great film outside of possibly the first John Wick that he co-did with Stahelski. So I don't know if Stahelski's going to fall into the same trap of like, he had one concept that really, really worked and he really works for. And outside of that, he's a solid like 8 out of 10, but not great. Which I realize in saying that Marvel could really use a consistent 8 out of 10 hitter right now, but I'm just speaking of best case versus worst case. Tato, buy or sell?
I'll buy it. The headache of the Blade has definitely been an issue for me in the MCU. Like, I wish it wouldn't like have happened. And the nice thing is that Blade doesn't inherently have to be like at a time. It's not like it's going to be a Black Widow situation where the movie really should have happened in 2016. And then the movie happened 5 years later. So that said, you can drop Blade at any time. I trust Marshall Ali. John Wick is shooting shit, stabbing shit in black suits. Blade is shooting shit, stabbing shit in black suits. So fundamentally, the crossover there is, as you said, pretty sound. So I'll give it a buy and hope that it finally gets done.
JPO?
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and buy it. It intrigues me enough, and I think it has potential. So yeah.
And Barber.
At this point, I'm selling anything Blade related until it's confirmed. I've just lost all interest.
That is absolutely fair. Guys, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on from this segment, and I will continue to workshop how to shorten it. I'll probably start with including less stories, but I just thought there was a lot of interesting shit this week. So thank you for indulging, boys. We're going to go ahead and move into the Oscars first. But before we get to our thoughts on the show, if you watch this show regularly, in which case I'd love to meet the person who does, previously, Matt Beer and I, my regular co-host for this, did an episode where we went through and thoroughly predicted the Oscars. We recorded a segment for this prior to this episode that we will now cut to, where we go over our predictions and kind of discuss some of our thoughts on the different categories, just so he could be involved a little bit on the conversation. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and send it over to none other than myself and Matt Beer. Take it away, me. Hey, everybody. Thanks. I guess I'm hosting the other show as well. So thank you for cutting to me. What's up, guys? Matt here with I'm not Matt. That's Matt. Jesus Christ, it's too early for this.
How you doing?
It's too early.
You're Aaron.
I am Aaron. How's it going, everybody? I am here with Matt, who unfortunately we recorded the show at a time where he couldn't join us, but hopefully we'll get that straightened out in the coming weeks. But we wanted to quickly go over, because a few weeks ago on the show, we did our own predictions. And we thought, since we're talking about the Oscars tonight, it would be good to kind of go back over those. So we were talking about this before we started. Interestingly, on the night of the Oscars, with like our own separate groups, we redid our predictions without looking at what we had previously predicted. And we both did better than we had done previously. You said you went 16 as well, right? 16 for 23?
I went 16 of 23 the night of.
Yeah. So we tied the night of, but based on our previous video, which again, if you want more in-depth discussion on why we picked what we picked, I got 14 of 23 correct on our original predictions. Matt got 11 correct. So we're going to run down the nominations here real quick. Most of these I'm just going to read. However, every couple of awards I'll stop if I think there's a point worth discussing briefly. With that said, we'll jump in here. with Best Visual Effects, where Dune Part 2 took the award. I got that one correct. Matt had said Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This one I want to comment on real quickly because I learned something while watching the show that almost would have made the point that I made when we discussed it better than anything else that I said on the day. Because even though I agreed with you in conception that Kingdom should have won the award, I had said at the time that I thought the fact that Better Man existed would have canceled each other out. Two apes would have canceled each other out. Did you know that both films were also done by Weta?
I didn't know until I think the week before. I think I was listening to Perry and Scott's show, FYC. And I think they mentioned that Weta did both on that one. If not, I didn't know until after because they said it on the recap. But I'm pretty sure they said it on their official predictions. But my whole thing, I don't think it was the monkey thing, like two monkeys canceled each other out. I'm starting to think more it was, look, we've had 3 Apes movies in the past that did what you did in this movie. You know, it's incredible, but it's not anything different. Which I guess you could say about Dune 2 as well, because you had 1 movie prior, but you had 3 versus 1. So maybe that, I think, played a bigger role.
I don't know. I still disagree because I again, personally, I still would have given it to Kingdom because I think again, like, go look up on, especially now that physical media is out there, on the DVD, they have the version of the film where you can watch it pre-visual effects, and you can see that, like, most of this production was done on physical practical sets with just actors in mocap suits walking around open spaces, which really has never been done before. And that to me is like true visual innovation. But that said, Dune still looked great. So I'm not against it.
And I think you can watch that with Kingdom. If you go on Disney Plus, I think they do have that feature.
Oh, do they put it
where
up
you
there?
can see it before? I think so. Maybe they should have sent that to the Academy and been like, here, watch this too. And have like a side by side so they can actually see.
Can I just say, I wish we could, like, I wish the Academy would make public the packages that were sent to the voters. Because, so for anyone who doesn't know, the nominees that, like, make the final nomination list, they basically put together a package that can promote and talk about whatever they want, and that's what's sent to the people voting, so they have the chance to sort of watch this thing. And last year, when it won visual effects, they put Godzilla -1 back in theaters, and they actually included that package in the release of the movie, so you could actually see what they had showed the Academy voters and what they chose to promote within their film.
Yeah.
And watching the package, I was like, oh, I now see why this won, because they really, really strategically pointed out, like, not just like, oh, big Godzilla, he looked cool, but like in terms of the scaling of the buildings and the crowd work, and a lot of that was done through visual effects, and it shows like so much more of this movie than you realize is VFX. And I just think it's really cool. I think it'd be cool to see that stuff. Anyways, let's run through a couple here. Best makeup and hair was The Substance. We both got that correct. Best costume design was Wicked. We both got that correct. And congratulations to Paul Tazwell, who becomes, first off, he's the first gay black, was it just black man or gay black man to ever win?
Just
first black man to win the costume award. But I also learned after the fact that he is the first costume designer in entertainment history ever to be 1 Grammy away from an EGOT. So, Paul, if you're interested in having someone write about your life and then you read it out loud for an audiobook, go get that EGOT. Production design went to Wicked. You got that correct. I was wrong with my choice of Conclave, and yeah, fair choice. Good call there. You also got sound correct. You went with Dune Part 2. I took the wild swing of A Complete Unknown. And while I stand by what I said, you were right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it, especially when they went through the nominations and they they showed clips of the movie and they showed the Dune one, and you just hear the sound. I'm like, oh yeah, that's your winner. That's absolutely your winner. The sound with like the sandworms and with just everything in it, I think is just It's amazing. It really is. Like that one to me felt like it was a lock. Like that was one of the production locks, just because how incredible the sound is. And yeah, like Complete Unknowns is really good too, especially like some of the guitars and stuff. Like the sound is really good, but just what they do in Dune is amazing.
That strikes me as the kind of thing where if sound were still 2 awards, sound mixing and sound editing,
yeah,
I would say that Dune probably gets like sound, and A Complete Unknown gets sound mixing.
Maybe. So that's
like
possible.
I think that gets split. I'll give you the trifecta of credit here because you got those last 2 correct and I got them wrong. You also picked up editing. You correctly predicted that the Academy would award Sean Baker for Anora. I ignorantly was against it. Now, I still stand by my pick of The Brutalist, but I was wrong. And you know what? I will completely admit that from the mindset, I got that category wrong. And I say that because his speech, I think, truly showed that, editing for him isn't just necessarily a control thing. It's he clearly has an appreciation for the art form. So I think my logic of a director doing their own editing probably would apply in certain instances. But I think Sean Baker is the exception. I don't think he's doing it for control. I think he's doing it because he truly believes in the art form, and kudos to him. I still don't think it was the best edited film, but kudos to him. Also, we should mention Sean Baker, before I forget to say it later, the first person since Walt Disney in the 1950s to take home 4 individual Oscars. He's also the first person to take home 4 Oscars for one film, because Walt Disney won for 4 different projects. The closest, and I've seen this online, some people have tried to claim that he's the third person, because Bong Joon-ho did have 4 acceptance speeches at the Oscar in 2019. Yeah. For those who are not aware, international feature, the trophy actually goes to the country that submitted the film. It does not go to the filmmaker. So Bong obviously won 3 Oscars, which is still a great achievement for one film. But international feature does not go to him. That went to South Korea, right? South Korea.
Yeah, it went to South Korea. It should have.
I was 100% confident that was South Korea until he said it out loud, and then all of a sudden, I doubted
it was.
myself.
It was South Korea, and if you direct the movie, or you're the one that's like the biggest impact on said movie, whether it's director, screenwriter, whatever, right? Or maybe you get a couple people. Those people should take that Oscar home, not the country. It should just go to the
I don't
country.
disagree with you, but unfortunately,
I think it's weird because they didn't make.
Unfortunately, that is the way that it's set. But kudos to him for that. All right, where were we? So editing, So kudos to Baker for Anora for breaking that record. It's certainly, I mean, for a guy who spent his entire career being the Academy outsider, that's a hell of a way to break through. So congratulations.
Yep.
And best of luck with all those IATSE accusations that came out as soon as the film won Best Picture.
Yeah, I don't buy into it that much. Who he follows, it's a little weird. I don't think that makes him a bad person. I just think he's weird. I think it's weird, but I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think it's something that he should be canceled for.
Best original score, we were both incorrect on. I think that's the first time, and of what we've read so far, we were both wrong. I said Amelia Perez, although it's worth noting that after I said Amelia Perez's press also probably got worse again. So yeah, that was a bad call from me. You did go with Wicked, which would have been a worthy winner.
Wicked.
But it does go to Daniel Bloomberg for The Brutalist.
If I saw The Brutalist before, I would have went with The Brutalist. I don't know why I went Wicked. Because even I sat there like, why is Wicked nominated? It's like
I would have gone with Conclave if I was voting with my heart, because I do think Volker Berlman's score for Conclave was the best. It's
really good.
Daniel Bloomberg, I thought that theme was incredible. Like that main recurrent, very like triumphant sounding theme, I think is a beautiful piece of music. Nothing about the rest of the score really stood out to me, and I thought the 80s stuff at the end was really quite bad, actually. But that said, that piece of music in and of itself, that one score, certainly I think honestly is probably more worthy than either film we picked. So
Yeah,
kudos. Also, can I just say, because this was something I saw on the internet the night of, as far as I'm aware, that is just how Daniel Bloomberg looks. He's not sick. I did see people saying that online. But you know what? Kudos for people for trying to have a heart. We've had enough instances in Hollywood where people are like, they look like shit. And then, we find out the truth. So thank you for having empathy. But no, Daniel Bloomberg's just European. He's not sick.
Did you see what Jeff Snyder said about him?
Oh, God.
I like Jeff
a
Snyder.
Bad way to start. I love Jeff, but that's a bad way to start.
That's what he tweeted. He said, if they ever need to recast Nosferatu, the Brutalist composer just might be the guy. And I was like, God, you might not be wrong, Scott, but God. But hey, he made one good score. Those 4 notes are iconic, and I should have went with the Brutalist just for those notes.
Well, speaking of Nosferatu, you predicted it in the realm of cinematography, and while cinematographer Jaron Blaschke probably had the second best one up there, it did go to the Brutalist, which I predicted, so I got that one correct. Let's go through the awards no one gave a shit about next. Original song went to El Mal, and worst speech of the night went to the people who wrote El Mal.
Start singing. It's like, why are you singing?
The only positive thing I have to say about that speech is, never thought I'd say these words, kudos to oh my God, what's the director's name? Jesus Christ, I'm blanking.
Jacques Audiard.
Thank you. Kudos to Jacques Audiard for seemingly having some self-awareness, because you could tell that motherfucker did not want to be on the stage at that point in time, and certainly did not want to say anything. And kudos for having enough self-awareness to understand that you are the last person anybody wants to hear from, aside from Carla Sofia Gascon. Live-action short film went to I'm Not a Robot, which I predicted correctly simply because the premise of losing your sanity over failing a Kachka test is a really interesting premise. I did see the short film. I actually don't think it really follows up on the premise all that interestingly, but it won the award, so congratulations. We both predicted Magic Candies for animated short film just simply based off the premise. And while I will say, as someone who saw all 5 of these in a theater, the premise of Magic Candies lives up to the hype of the log line that we read that night. It is so fucking wacky. In the Shadow of Cypress one, not the one I would have picked, quite frankly. I would have picked possibly any of the other 4 ahead of it. I liked it, but I thought the storytelling was a little... The metaphor it was going for, I don't think quite fully hits, but I think the movie benefited from being very topical. For those who don't know, it's about a Iranian veteran of the Iran war suffering from PTSD, and I think that visually they have great representation of how PTSD affects people. I just don't think the storytelling was there. But congrats to those filmmakers, and congrats to them for making it through LAX to be there for the show, because that's a nightmare in and of itself without immigration. For documentary short, The Only Girl in the Orchestra won, which I did correctly predict, although Matt's prediction of I Am Ready Warden was a very great one. 2 good documentary shorts there. We were talking about this before we went live. Doc Short has a history of loving music for some reason. It felt like the easy pick, and it did win. And then for Best Documentary Feature, the Academy had balls, because I'm going to be honest with you, man, there was a part of me as we got closer and closer, are they going to give it to Porcelain War? Or are they going to go with the safe pick that also gives room for a political message? But no, they did go with No Other Land. which I believe at this point still does not have distribution in the United States, which is got to be a record for an Academy-winning film.
Yeah.
Please, somebody pick this movie up and distribute it so that people have the chance to see it. And by the way, I loved their speech. It might have been obviously we'll go into it more when we go back to the full podcast, but it might have been my favorite speech of the night. I really loved their message. International feature, you also went with the, at the time, safe pick of Emilia Perez, and then their press got worse. So it goes to I'm Still Here, which I got. Animated. We both said The Wild Robot. It felt like the obvious pick. And then Flo won. What are your brief thoughts?
Which I'm really happy for. I remember watching it. I think it was before the Golden Globes or anything. And I thought when I watched it, this is the movie that could compete with The Wild Robot. I still think The Wild Robot is the better movie, but I'm really happy for the guy who actually made the movie.
Yes.
Something that kind of made me a little sad was when he went up there and he was talking. He's like, I want to thank my cats and dogs. And he heard some laughs in the audience. And he's like, no, I'm serious. It's like, like if you have looked through his like social media, followed him all, when he's been posting, he genuinely means that. Like those are like his family. So that made me a little sad. It's like, oh, really? We're going to laugh at that? He's like, no, I'm serious. It's like, dang it. But you could tell he was super nervous to get up there. And I think he just kind of the sense I got was he was not expecting to win. Like he was expecting it to go to the Wild Robot, because the Wild Robot, I would have still and I did predict it the night of to win.
Mm-hmm.
It was winning like everything else but the Golden Globes. The Golden Globes is the only one I believe that ended up giving Flo the win. But like the Annie Awards, the Wild Robot swept. And that usually tells me if you win at the Annie Awards like the Wild Robot did, you're probably going to win Best Animated Feature. But I should have factored in that international voting presence, because I do think that had an impact when it came to Flo. And it's a really big, influence when it comes to the vote for the Academy, because there's thousands of people that vote, and a lot of those people are not American. So maybe the Golden Globes, when it comes to something like that, is a pretty good indicator. Not as much with international, but when it comes to
certainly,
like
I think it's a good predictor of where the international mindset is. Yeah. So again, congratulations to Flo. Jint Zolbalodis. I probably pronounced that wrong, but that is phonetically how you say the man's name. But also keep an eye out, because Flo was his second film. His first film came out in 2019, a movie called Away.
Yeah.
And following the success of Flo, I just had his name up. Zolbalodis is actually working with a company to get full distribution for Away, which basically only played at film festivals at the time. And it's happening soon enough that if you're in the UK or Ireland, it's actually dated to release next week. So if you enjoyed Flo, be on the lookout, because they're trying to get proper distribution for his first film as well off the back of this. So if you love Flo, go check out the first one.
And he made it on some like free editing software.
Yep.
That like me and you can download. Now you got to be good at animation. Like you got to be good at it. You can't just download it and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna play around with it. Oh, I just made Flo. You got to be good at animating, but you can download the software.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is absolutely I was gonna say easy to do is not the word.
It's not,
but it's
doable. It's not easy. And it's what Latvia's first like Oscar
first
win
nomination
ever.
And first win.
Like they've never had a win from somebody from their
also,
country.
Before we move on, the other record with this one was his co-writer and producer. I'm going to believe it's pronounced Matisse Kasha. At 29 years of age, is now the youngest recipient in the animated industry of the award. He beat out Andrew Stanton when he won previously for, I want to say it was Finding Nemo, but I'm not certain.
Nice.
So Congratulations, Tim. I mean, shit, winning an Oscar before 30 is not easy to do. Ask Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah. Sorry, Timmy. Maybe next year.
With that said, let's run through a couple of these easy ones real quick. Not much discussion here since it's what we thought it would be. Anora took screenplay. We both predicted that. Conclave took adapted screenplay. We both predicted that. Supporting actress did go to Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. You did go against the grain by predicting Ariana Grande, but I don't think either of us are shocked that Zoe took it home. Kieran Culkin wins for A Real Pain. Again, no shocks there. Adrian Brody did win for The Brutalist. While we both went against the grain for Sing Sing and Conclave, it's worth noting that on the night we both switched our vote because it kind of became inevitable that he was going to win it.
Yeah, and he should have listened to Kieran Culkin at the SAG Awards when Kieran Culkin said 45 seconds the allotted time, Adrian Brody. You should have listened to it, Adrian Brody, instead of doing a 5-minute, 40-second long speech.
Bro just had to get it out.
Talking about how you're so much better than everyone. Like you know, we don't need you to be super self-indulgent for 5 minutes.
He saw
and
Timmy's
thank you for ruining the Hulu stream. He ruined the Hulu stream because the speech was so long. I had to go online through different means to see best
trust me,
and best picture.
Stick around for the rest of the show, guys. We're going to talk about that at the end. With that said, though, best director, we both predicted Brady Corbett, which looked like the obvious choice at the time, but the momentum did swing, and it went to Anora. Just because we're already at 23 minutes, I don't want to go too long into this, but just kind of your quick reaction to this. Somebody suggested to me that Brady Corbett promoting The Brutalist and the way that he sort of very brazenly talked about himself and his approach to the film, and very clearly this like high opinion that he held, might have fucked himself out of winning the Oscar, specifically because he also talked about how he hated shooting Vox Lux in America and he never plans to work in America again. Corbett, legendarily so, went 0 for 28 on the awards circuit when we're talking about the guilds, which are mostly made up of American workers. Do you think he talked himself out of the Oscar?
I don't think so. I mean, I think maybe with some people he might have, if they were initially going to vote for him, but I think he lost the award because Anora was just loved by so many people. And I think it was Jeff Snyder, bringing him up again. I think he mentioned how everybody in Hollywood said the movie they would want to direct is Anora. Like, that's the movie everybody wants to direct. And I think really it might have just came down to Anora's just a really good film. And everybody in Hollywood, clearly, as you can see by how many Oscars it won, they loved it. And I only went with Brady Corbet because I thought it would be like the whole, so one film will win Best Director, the other will win Best Picture. That's kind of how I went about it because, you know, a lot of years that's how it went. But I feel like the last few years, that's not how it's gone. Because last year, Oppenheimer won Best Picture, Nolan won Best Director. The year previous, Everything Everywhere won Best Picture. The brothers, or the whatever their name is, they won Best Director. The Daniels won Best Director. So there's starting to be a trend where if you win Best Director, you might just end up winning Best Picture. But also, you got to be like sweeping at the Oscars too. You got to win most of your nominations, which is what Anora did and Everything Everywhere did and Oppenheimer did.
Yeah, it's just looking it up to fact check myself here with this real quick. Yeah, so the last time that there was a split in directors where there couldn't have been, Damien Chazelle won Best Directing for La La Land and Moonlight won Best Picture with Barry Jenkins nominated. The only two times since where there's been a split, in 2018, Green Book won Best Picture and Alfonso Cuarón won Best Director, but Peter Farrelly was not nominated. Similarly, in 2021, Coda won Best Picture and Jane Campion won Best Director, but Sean Heder was not nominated for Coda. So it really only, in the last 10 years, it's only happened generally when the person that goes on to win Best Picture does not make Best Director. So you're right. The tide is definitely shifting there. But then we'll end this off here. Not much to say about it because we've already gushed about Anora. Mikey Madison goes on to win Best Actress. Demi Moore not winning wasn't a shock to either of us. You had predicted Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. I had said Mikey for Anora. And then Best Picture, I have to give you the kudos you deserve. You did predict Anora to win. I had said Conclave. Neither of us did have The Brutalist, which is probably the other big favorite going into the award show. Matt, before we wrap this out and turn it back over to the panel, any final thoughts on the show?
Yeah, I mean, the show overall I thought was one of the better shows. I think Conan was one of the better hosts since, God, I mean, you go back to like Seth MacFarlane time. Like, he did a really good job. And again, Adrian Brody, 45 seconds. 45 seconds. But yeah.
3 minutes when they played him off.
Yeah. And he's like, stop the music, stop the music. I've done this before. And it's like, okay, dude. Okay. I know you won an Oscar. Some people in the Academy didn't think you won an Oscar, but you won an Oscar. Calm down. But I hope they bring Conan back next year to host. If not, I hope they can convince John Mulaney.
And I think it bodes well, at least on the Academy's end, that they've already come out and said, like, we would love to have him back. Like, this went smoothly.
Yeah, bring him in. Everybody loved Conan, so do it. It wasn't like Jimmy Kimmel where people were split for a bit, or Ellen.
The only, which again, we'll talk about this more with the full panel. The only thing that I wish they had done was I wish they had brought the Dune Sandworm back, because you got to do jokes in the rule of threes, man. You know, and to be fair, I have the perfect pitch for what that joke would be, which we'll talk about with the panel. Matt, thank you for joining me and doing this. We're going to go ahead and turn it back over to the episode now, where we will go through more in depth. But brother, thank you for being here. We'll have you hopefully on the full show next time.
Yes, hopefully. Went a little longer.
Back to myself, who will be less tired than I am right now. Guys, we are back. First off, thank you again to Matt for taking the time to record a separate segment with me. I hope you guys weren't too bored by our derailments there talking about the Oscars. And again, congratulations to myself for getting more predictions correct. It would have worked better if he had won, but I'm still going to say it anyways. All right, so boys, the three of you are here because you all watched the Oscars together. Now, there was a bigger collective of you guys as well. I invited a couple of people in that group to be here. You're the three that showed up. But with that said, I've broken the show up into kind of sections and portions, and we're going to go ahead and go through and talk about whatever moments sort of stood out to you about said show. And we're going to go ahead and start with the opening to the show. Now, every few years, the Academy Awards decides to open on a musical number. It's not a consistent thing, but they do it every once in a while. Some recent examples I remember include opening with a performance from Queen the year Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated. They also opened with the original song nominee Can't Stop the Feeling in 2016 from Trolls. This year, they decided to open with a performance related to Wicked, because they only performed one song from the movie, Defying Gravity, but Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo took to the stage to perform Somewhere Over the Rainbow from the original Wizard of Oz, and Cynthia Erivo performed the song Home from The Wiz before they duetted Defying Gravity. And Cynthia Erivo, quite frankly, fucking nailed that note live on television. Good for her, because that was impressive. And then, of course, we had host Conan O'Brien, who did his opening monologue, and then went on to conclude that by performing the second song of the night, I Won't Waste Time. Conan, I don't think you wasted my time, but the show sure did. We'll get to that later. But before we go into the actual awards, what were your guys' thoughts on the opening of the show?
Big thumbs up on the opening number. I enjoyed that a lot. As you said, she fucking nailed it. fucking find you someone who looks at you the way those two look at each other, because dear God, they are clearly madly in love as sisters, as it were. Fucking, it is fantastic to see. The performance was great, and Conan is hilarious as always. As funny as one can be in these types of situations. A really good pick for a host. Good opening monologue.
You'd swear if you just heard the gossip headline, Ariana Grande leaves husband for Wicked co-star, you'd think it was Cynthia Erivo and not the Munchkin. Because those two look at each other with such adoration. They're either truly, truly platonically in love with each other, or they are the best actresses on the face of planet Earth. And I haven't quite figured it out yet. But with that said, Barber, JPO, any thoughts on the opening?
I love the opening. Yeah, the musical number was fantastic. The Conan O'Brien monologue, I thought he had some really good jokes. The bit with Sandler, I think they nailed it. That was fantastic. I could have done without the other musical number, the Waste Your Time musical number, because as it turns out, maybe it was a bit of a time waster because the stream ended up getting cut off on Hulu. So thanks for that. I'm not going to blame Conan. I'm sure we'll get to it in a moment.
Well, we'll get there.
But I said it on stream. I was like, feels like Conan's wasting our time right now. So it was so funny. Like, looking back at it, like, if I was able to see the entire stream on Hulu without it getting cut off, like, I'm gonna be like, yeah, no, that was funny. But my gut reaction was like, well, if Conan didn't sing a fucking musical number, I would have, got to see the final award.
Yeah. When you put it that way, it is worse. JPO, any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love Conan. Big reason I tuned in. I was kind of hoping he'd do more like little pop-ins at the beginning. Maybe I'm looking too much Billy Crystal here, but the me substance thing with him was pretty funny. And then his monologue I thought was decent. He didn't overdo it either throughout the night here. Wicked number was good. I think it's a bit biased, is it not though? They're the only ones that got to do their song nominees, right?
Yeah, well, they weren't even nominees technically. No nominee actually got up and performed. Yeah, because they're not original songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right on. Never mind. All right. So yeah, but no, I mean, I think it's a good way to open up the show. A little music, a little funniness. Yeah, what more do you want?
Yeah, that's fair. What did you guys think of, since it makes most sense to talk about it here? Were you guys, because the producers of the Oscars have already come out and said, like, in terms of prepping for the show, they love the experience with working with Conan and they would want to have him back again. Now, obviously, those could just be niceties, but the fact that they've said it within a week of doing the show, at least to me, says, like, they actually want to have him back. Like, I'm sure the Academy said nice things about James Franco, but no one within a week of the show was like, yeah, we'd love to have him back. So what did you guys think of Conan? Would you like to see him host again, especially if it winds up going to like a Jimmy Kimmel type of host? Would you like to see Conan instead of him, or what are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I would definitely take Conan over Kimmel, and Conan probably over the vast majority of people they would consider.
I love Conan. I started watching like most any show that I watch a lot of, like talk show wise, originally for the guests, and then it ends up being just for now I'll watch / listen to Conan for Conan, and it doesn't matter who he's got. And that's how I feel here. Like, I think he'd be a great fit. I'm a firm believer in mixing around a little bit. I wouldn't mind someone else next year, but like, yeah, a couple years from now, I would love to bring him back.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Bring Conan back, maybe not next year, but if like in a couple of years he wants to do it again, you want to bring him back, yeah, because I think he nailed it.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I would like to see, and I don't know when exactly in the timeline it happened, but I know that his parents passed away very recently, so I'm sure that affected like how much prep he was doing for the show. I would love to see, if he did it again, more of the either pre-taped or extendedly pre-rehearsed segments, because while he did have some funny jokes in his opening monologue, And he had one or two very good stingers during his, like, I'm going to stand on stage and do a bit and then we'll go off. Specifically the two that stand out, also probably the two riskiest jokes he told. The Kendrick Lamar joke was very well done. And then and you know what, as much as people don't want to, I have to give her a lot of credit. The interaction with Carla Sofia Gascon absolutely could have been a moment for her to like have a diva moment and react very badly, but I thought she handled it with grace, because how could you not make fun of her? Like, you have to. And I also thought Conan handled it with much more class. I think sometimes I actually didn't hate Kimmel as host, and I don't go to him often when I watch like late night interviews, but I thought he had a fearlessness that really worked. But sometimes that fearlessness kind of went the other way, where he would like so brazenly kind of make fun of the celebrities that you'd almost like, what happened to Chris Rock could have happened to Kimmel if Rock didn't have it happen to him first. Like, Kimmel was not scared to really make fun of people. And I thought he probably would have handled a Carla Sofia Gascon joke with much less class than Conan did. I thought, it was very much like, let's make fun of all the things that won't make the room feel awkward, because we could go harder, but that's not what this is. Like, this isn't a roast. This isn't Netflix's roast of Carla Sofia Gascon. It's the Oscars. So let's address it. Let's move on. But the pre-recorded bits were some of the funnier stuff. The substance bit was really great. I forget the name they gave it, but like the cinema bit where they're sitting in the theater, that was possibly the funniest joke all night. Just this like deep, as the joke gets deeper, it's like we took 9,000 cell phones and we attached them all together to make one big. How do you hold it? The building holds it.
Well, that was a good one. Cinema streams.
So I'd love to see more of those. I'd love to see less singing. Apparently, he did a similar thing at the Emmys a number of years ago. He did a song number when he hosted the Emmys, and it went over really, really well. I don't think this was as strong as people made that one sound. But it was a good idea, like making fun of the fact that we're going to do a musical number for no reason other than to waste time about wasting time. Also, before we move on to the actual awards real quick, the Dune Sandworm. All right, I want to throw this pitch out there because I threw it out to Matt earlier. So anyone who knows, things about comedy, there's this thing that's the rule of threes, right? If you're going to do something, do it in threes. But the worm only appeared twice. It appeared in the initial bit with them, on the stage during the dance number, and then it appeared as a part of the orchestra playing the harp. When I was watching the show, the thought that I had was the perfect third bit for this worm to appear in was in the cinema ad. Have him be in the screening room with the teens eating popcorn from the Dune popcorn bucket. Because how do you not, if you're making fun of the last year of film, how do you not bring up the popcorn bucket? I mean, again, you don't have to be like crass with it, because like, that joke could be at one point he walks out with like his crotch cut out and just the Dune popcorn bucket stuck over it. Like, we can certainly get more crass if we want to, but like, I feel like we had a chance to reference it, especially with the Dune Sandworm existing. I don't know what's the rating on the bit. What do we think? Bad idea. Should I be writing for the Oscars, or am I going to get fired?
I think you could definitely reference it. Yeah, I think you could have done a little bit more with the sandworm.
I would have let the sandworm. Yeah, or let the sandworm present an award.
Yeah, and the bucket, and yeah.
But yeah, no. So there was definitely some good stuff here. I think Conan made for a solid host. I think he'd probably do better on a second time around. But with that said, we'll go ahead and jump into the first round of awards, which I have them written down in order. We had Best Supporting Actor presented by Robert Downey Jr., which went to Kieran Culkin. We have Andrew Garfield and Goldie Hawn, who presented Best Animated Feature and Best Animated Short Film. Those went to Flo, and let me make sure I got the name correct. Flo and In the Shadow of the Cypress won those 2 awards. We had Best Costume Design, which featured 5 actors from the nominees in a similar Fab 5 panel style that they did previously. That award went to Paul Tazwell of Wicked. We have Best Original and Adapted Screenplay presented by Amy Poehler and an offstage Nick Offerman. Those went to Conclave and Anora. And then we had Scarlett Johansson and June Squibb present Best Makeup and Hairstyling, which was followed up by the James Bond tribute, which we'll get to in a second. But of this set of nominees, Jake, I'll go to you first. Was there a winner that stood out? Was there a bit that stood out with the hosts, positively or negatively? Just any thoughts you have on some of these awards right here.
Yeah, we all knew this was the Kieran Culkin Award this year. I think that was pretty much set, plugged in by everybody. Nothing too surprising here, obviously, with animated feature did end up being a surprise. Like, I had Wild Robot, but I also haven't gotten to see Wild Robot or Flow yet.
Flow is on Max.
Oh, good. Fantastic.
Yeah, Flow's on Max, and the Wild Robot's on Peacock, if anybody has Peacock.
Yeah, those are definitely on the to-do list. I just I barely got through. For some reason, I thought the Oscars was a week later than it was, so I barely got through the Best Picture nominees. But yeah, nothing too surprising here. I figured costume was going to go to Wicked. The screenplays I had nailed, and the makeup I also, had nailed there. We can talk about our, I don't know, you guys went over your prediction percentages there, but I'll throw out mine. I went 17. Yeah. So my favorite thing about the Oscars was that I went 69%. Let's go.
Well, hey, congratulations. I will say, just for full transparency, the bit is being edited in after the fact, obviously, just to give it to you. So Matt and I, on the prediction that we did on the channel, which was basically like right after the award, the nominations were announced. It was really early on that we did it. I went 14 for 23. Matt went 11 for 23. But then separately on Oscar night, we both, like, with our own groups of people, we like redid our predictions without referencing what we had picked previously, just to see, like, with the weeks had passed, how would we do? And we both went 16 out of 23. So we now have the highest score so far with Tato. Did either of you guys beat 17?
No, I went 15 because there were a couple that I went kind of I went with an underdog. I did go A Real Pain for original screenplay over Anora. I thought maybe, just
certainly the next best pick,
yeah. So that was my thing. I wasn't surprised at all to see Anora win. I had actually watched it the morning of the Oscars, and it's a fantastic movie. It deserved all the awards that it won. This particular group of nominees, I went 6 for 8. The only one, the ones I didn't get wrong, original screenplay, and then animated short. I just don't know anything about them. That was me looking like, I'll pick that one because I think it's got the best non-gold derby or whatever.
I did see all 5 of them. Which one did you pick?
I picked Yuck.
I would have had that second, so not a bad. So yeah, the short film one was really interesting to me because I did have the chance to go see all 5 of them in a theater. Nice. And frankly, the one that won, while the actual physical animation behind it, and I'm sure the little bit they showed on the Oscar, broadcast, the actual animation behind it is very, very beautiful. And the story, which is part of the reason why I think it won, because the story of, a former Iranian soldier who is suffering from PTSD, very similar to American soldiers, then dealing with this whale washing up on a beach and it sort of being a parallel to how he feels, is an interesting concept. I didn't actually find the film to be all that fleshed out. Like, I thought that it was something that maybe could have used another pass at the screenplay to sort of get the story across in the short amount of time they had. So I guess from a tone perspective, I wasn't shocked when it won, but on a quality perspective, I was actually shocked that it won because I thought there were a couple there that were better than it.
Yeah. And then,
Yuck was very, very good. And I don't know where any of these are being distributed after the fact, but Yuck was a good one. JPO, any thoughts on the award wins or any of the actual part of the teleplay there? Or telecast, excuse me.
All right.
Oh, sorry. What happened?
Thoughts?
Just overall?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's been a fucking day.
No, you're good, brother. On these awards.
Yeah, man. No, because this is a Kieran, right? Or was he main actor? No, I love that one here. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say any of the ones on screen you're good with.
Yeah, well, I'll just make sure he wasn't main actor. I was just fucking up for a second.
Yeah. No,
I loved Kieran's speech of the whole fine when you win an Emmy, and then finally like, hey, remember last year when I said, well, actually, I really want 4. Fine when you win an Oscar. Get cracking at those kids. So that's great. That he had that in his back pocket. They throw on his wife. His speeches in general throughout all the circuits have been a lot of fun. So that was dope here. Yeah, shout out to Glad Flow one. Cats are awesome, way better than dogs. I will die on that hill any day, all day long.
I will agree. I do think Flo deserved the win. I like the Wild Robot better just because I like dialogue in my movies. But Flo, I'm glad it won.
Like
they seem pretty happy.
Yeah. I had Flo personally ranked 4 of 5. Like it was 4th for me of the 5. The only one that I would have had below it was Wallace and Gromit. But genuinely, I think all 5 of them, if any of them had won, they were certainly a worthy winner. This was a really, really strong year for animation. I thought all 5 of them were very, very good.
Inside Out 2 is at my number 1 of the year as it stands. So
yeah, no, genuinely, like the fact that it was such a strong year that Inside Out being like the Disney Studio Pixar sequel just kind of immediately got batted to the side is over like the more original concept, innovative. It's like, damn, that's how you know it's a strong year. Also, just in general, and I'm sure Jacob will feel very similarly. If you haven't seen Memoir of a Snail, and I don't know if it is available anywhere publicly, it was the one that had the least profile of the 5. But if you get a chance to see it, check it out because it is actually genuinely a really great film.
My number 1 of last year. I loved that movie. I think it's
it is. It's very, very good, and it just because of like what it is and where it came from and how it was distributed, it has the least profile. I wanted to ask you guys because in terms of the other stuff, so some notes that I made down about these. Paul Tazwell, who won for Best Costume Design, becomes not only, as they said on the telecast, he's the first Black man to ever win the Costume Design Award, which is a huge step up for that industry. But also, he becomes the first costume designer, I believe, in history to be within 1 win of an EGOT. He currently has an Emmy, a Tony, and an Oscar. He is a Grammy away from being an EGOT-winning costume designer. Now, you may ask, how would that happen? If he were to write a book and then do the audiobook of it himself, that is a category that the Grammys do a Grammy for. Either that or he could have a late-in-life career transition to music, but the other one sounds easier. And certainly with the career he's had and the record he set that night, I don't think it'd be that hard to get a book written. So best of luck to you, sir, on your EGOT. But sticking on costume design, I want to ask you guys your thoughts on... So over the years, every few years, it seems like the Oscars break out this concept that the internet has dubbed the Fab Five, which is basically you bring out 5 nominees or 5 previous Oscar winners to the stage. And it was usually done for the acting categories. And you basically bring these 5 actors up and they say something nice about the actors who are nominated. And it's done in lieu of showing a clip package from the film. Well, last year they did it, and it actually went over really, really well with the public, more than it had done so in years past. And it was originally announced that they were going to be doing the exact same thing again this year. Except then Amelia Perez happened. So they switched gears and said, well, we're not doing the Fab Five for actors, but we are still going to be doing it. And then once we got to the actual Oscars telecast, Robert Downey Jr. and Da'Vine Joy Randolph for the supporting actors basically did the Fab Five concept just on their own. So they had to say 5 things about the 5 nominees. But then when you got to lead actor and lead actress, they did clip packages, most likely so that Emma Stone didn't have to say nice things about Carla Sofia Gascon. And then they did the Fab Five thing for other categories, like costume design. They also did it for cinematography. Now, all of the BS with the acting categories aside, which frankly, from a production perspective, I think is just a fucking mess, and like very obviously a really bad publicly made decision, I actually really like the concept more the way they did it this year with costume design and cinematography. I actually think it's much nicer and much more personal to have these faces that you recognize. And I mean, here this year they had Lily Rose Depp, Elle Fanning, John Lithgow, Connie Nielsen, and Bowen Yang, who were in the films that were nominated, get up on stage and talk about the work they did with said costume designer. I think that's a way more personal way of doing it. And I also feel like for these below the line categories, it's a much cooler way to get across the impact that these people have than just showing a clip package and showing the work that you've already seen on the screen. So I wondered what your guys' thoughts were on that before we move on.
I'll agree with you on that. I hadn't put too much thought into it, but now that you mention it out loud, yes, that was very sweet. I like it. I'll agree.
Yeah, and especially I thought the moments with the winners, like Bowen Yang getting to hug Paul Tazewell, and then with cinematography, Joe Alwyn handing the trophy to Lowell Crawley after working with him on Brutalist. Like, I don't know, something about it worked for me much more than having an actor who tangentially knows somebody, or in the case of Michelle Yeoh, was a minority like the actor she spoke for, because yes, that's publicly known. She's one of the few minorities that's ever won Best Actress, so they had to drag her out. Like, I just think it works much better. I don't know how you guys felt about the concept in general, or like the way they executed it this year compared to years past. Or if you have thoughts at all.
They kind of did a little bit of both this year. Yeah, I'm a little torn because again, you want to also think about time wise and whatnot. But yeah, I do like kind of I do miss the actor 5 because I mean, as much as I like clips, I do think that's a nice kind of unique way of getting at least just unique and in general. I did miss that for the actors, at least personally.
Okay, Jacob.
Yeah, I like it, especially for like these categories that they chose: cinematography, and costume design. It makes it like in the grand scheme of things, like you're looking at, and you're remembering your supporting actors, your director, you're remembering those awards. It makes these awards feel like they're more important, that they're taking this time to talk about them rather than just, we're going to give you this 15-second clip and that's all you get. No, we're going to have people that worked with these people and they're going to, gush about them and all the hard work they've done. And, not something that we as, just casual movie viewers really think about. So I thought, it made the awards feel more important than we might have thought they were originally.
Yeah. And then before we move on to the next round of awards, I want to talk about this Bond tribute. I'm not going to mince words. I thought this was the worst moment of the night. So I should say, them doing a tribute to Bond was something that made sense. So for people who don't know, the reason it was done, coincidentally, at the Governor's Awards a few weeks ago, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson were given an honorary Oscar for their contributions to cinema. And then again, coincidentally, not long following that, they sold the creative license to the thing that they are most known for in the cinema world. So it made sense to put together a tribute to the Bond franchise under their control, because now more than ever, Bond is going to be getting a hard reboot, and Bond has also been a staple of the film industry for the last 50 plus years. To me, it was a move that made sense. The way they executed it was just fucking awkward and really, really difficult to watch. If Margaret Qualley has dance training, to be fair, she wasn't bad, but like it was really distracting having Margaret Qualley be like this face of all these faceless Bond actors that were part of this dance. It felt really weird to like have an actress be the symbol of it, especially more so given like what the substance is about and the fact that she's in it. Like it felt really, really weird to me for her to be like face forward on this Bond tribute. And then to bring up three singers who have no connection to the franchise, have no connection to the artists who they were singing for, and have no connection to the Oscars at all. I mean, frankly, like I know who Doja Cat is. I did not know who the other two were. My sister, who is 17 years old, was the one who told me that apparently these three lovely women have a single together that is currently somewhere on the Hot 100 radio charts. And that's why they were selected. And it's just confusing as all hell. Like, it did not make sense to me. It didn't connect in any way. It felt like an even worse version of what they did to We Don't Talk About Bruno a couple of years ago. Because at least you could argue with We Don't Talk About Bruno, with the exception of Meg Thee Stallion, the people that they were bringing out on stage that weren't connected to the cast were at least people of Latin descent who maybe had some connection to the film on a cultural level. I mean, it was the most random selection of people that you could have brought out. And frankly, and I'm going to sound really harsh, but compared to Paul McCartney, Shirley Bassey, and Adele, none of them really had the pipes to perform the songs they were singing. And I have to give credit to Doja Cat because she's at least publicly admitted, like, yeah, no, it did not work out. Like, I was flat. Like, she's admitted it, but none of them really had the pipes to live up to who they were singing for. So in conception, I thought a tribute was a great idea. In execution, I just thought it was really, really awkwardly done and really badly done. I don't know if I'm just strongly aggressive in my thoughts on that. I don't know where you guys stand, but yeah, the whole thing was really weird to me. And again, talking about wasting your time, it came off like a time waster.
Yeah, this was the one thing I actually wanted to chime in on before. I meant to get to this before. I'm pretty much with you because one, okay, you sold me on maybe a why. They didn't. So like that was kind of hidden. And two, yeah, one, I'm not necessarily wasn't thrilled by what we also saw. And to me, yeah, like for instance, Conan made the joke up front about not wasting time. This felt like a time filler. I would rather see, I don't know, Tony Todd and Michelle Trachtenberg get some respect, or just wrapping up the show a little bit earlier than this, or people not getting to see the ending because of Hulu. So yeah, I don't know. This was just kind of whatever. Give me a performance, give me a medley from the songs that were nominated this year. Give me something timely. This did nothing for me really, personally.
Since JPO said it, I was going to go there earlier, mentioning Tony Todd, Shannon Doherty as well.
Shannon Doherty, no, there's a few, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and of course, bitching about people missing the fucking In Memoriam is a time-honored Oscars tradition.
Every year they fuck up.
Every year there's we'll show Shrek's publicist, but no Shannon Doherty.
Yeah, come on.
But so that said, this is where I took a pee break and got water because I'm not a huge Bond guy. The song sounded fine to me, but like nothing like in comparison to fucking the Wicked opening, it was definitely subpar to that for sure. But that was gonna happen even if this was good. So yep, basically nothing on this one for me because I missed a chunk of it, and yeah, this was just the time of the show where I took a breather.
Fair enough. Barber, any thoughts before we move on?
Every 3.5 hour show needs a bathroom break, you guys. So this was it.
It's called the commercials. You got a pee break every time.
But we have to make the joke about who gets taken every time that commercial plays, so we can't skip the commercials.
Yeah, you can't skip the commercials because some of them might be really good. You never know when they might drop a surprise trailer.
And we had to play random ASAP questions. So
and we had to play random ASAP questions.
All right, then we'll move on to the next section of awards here. We had Best Editing, which was presented by Daryl Hannah. That went to Sean Baker for Anora. We'll say that a few more times tonight before we're done. Davine Joy Randolph presented Best Supporting Actress. That went to Zoe Saldana. Ben Stiller presented Best Production Design. That went to Wicked. Right? Wicked? Do I have that right?
I don't remember.
Yes, Wicked. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I just have to scroll up to it. Yeah, I'm doing this all off memory. I don't have it written down in front of me. The wins at least. Then we went to Mick Jagger, who came out to present Best Original Song. We got El Mal. Selena Gomez and Samuel L. Jackson presented Documentary Short Film and Documentary Feature. Those went to Only Girl in the Orchestra and No Other Land, respectively. Then we had, where was I at? Best Sound was presented by Miley Cyrus and Miles Teller. That went to Dune. Best Visual Effects was presented by Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. That also went to Dune. And finally, Ana de Armas presented a live-action short film with Sterling K. Brown. And that went to, scroll back up, I Am Not a Robot. So, any thoughts, JPO? I'll start with you on this one. Any thoughts on these awards, the presentations, any element of this portion of the show that stood out to you?
Yeah, honestly, funny enough, the first thing that comes to mind is Ben Stiller. I thought that was a fun little gag all throughout, too. And I feel like he probably wrote it because I feel like he's been a really funny presenter in the past. Like, he did the Avatar thing a few years back where he's full-on Avatared out. So I feel like he puts a little thought into what he does. So that was cool to see. Now just pick better movies than Nutcracker, and I miss you on film. Yeah, I didn't see the much maligned Amelia Perez, but I liked Sedania's speech. I think she's a great actress too, so hopefully she gets some more great juicy roles based off of that. And yeah, those are two things come to my mind.
Fair. I mean, talking about Amelia Perez there, I think the most shocking element of that was, of the 4 people who got on stage and accepted wins, I never thought the person who'd show the most class would be director Jacques Audiard, who, first off, very clearly did not want to go on that stage. He had to basically be dragged up there by the songwriters, and then refused to step up to the mic and say anything. And again, not that I'm in the business of giving Jacques Audiard a lot of credit. He said a lot of stupid things over the last couple of months. But again, good on him for having the awareness of understanding this is really not a place where people want to hear me speak right now. I don't want to do this. And with that said, congratulations on your Oscar win even still, because it's a big achievement for anyone. Also, I know everyone wants to shit on Adrian Brody for going long. Those 2 songwriters gave the worst speech of the night because they said absolutely fucking nothing until they started singing absolutely fucking nothing and would not get off stage.
Oh, I kind of did want to speak. Yeah, on well, I guess we're jumping ahead of Brody. Are we? So maybe I'll say that.
Yeah, we'll get there in a sec. So yeah, it's worst speech of the night for me was original song, because it was obnoxious. And Adrian Brody, I mean, at least he has a soothing enough voice to listen to. This was an awful couple of minutes. Yeah, Ben Stiller probably had the best gag of the night, and frankly, I thought Mick Jagger did a great job as well. I don't know if I've ever seen Mick Jagger look more nervous than having to read a teleprompter live on TV. But I thought he did a really great job, and I thought the audience was really receptive to him being there, which was awesome. It was a cool moment, especially
the orgy's fine. This is nerve-wracking.
But yeah, and then the other one in this set that I want to talk about in terms of the winners is documentary. So I predicted No Other Land to win because, frankly, I think it's one of the most important documentaries over the last few years, and I had hoped the Academy would give it the win. leading up to the show, quite frankly, there was a part of me that was nervous that they would give it to Porcelain War because it's also a documentary about warfare, but it's a much safer pick than No Other Land politically. And it kind of gave me this, like, I wonder if they're going to pussy out and give it to the documentary that's not going to confront one of the biggest world issues head on. Thankfully, they didn't. And if Amelia Perez had the worst speech of the night, honestly, I think they might have had the best speech of the night, because I think that those filmmakers are sending the exact right message. And if you allow me to get political here for a moment, I don't often. America is a country that is very one side or the other. With every political issue, it has to be one side is right and the side I'm not on is wrong. And as someone who is not only like not originally American and wasn't raised by parents who grew up in American climate politically, and is also not affiliated with either party, like registry wise, American politics is so frustrating for me to look at, because it feels like everyone wants to win and no one wants to do what is right. And that's a frustrating thing to look at head on. And I love that these people could get on stage and basically say, listen, whatever your perception is, whatever you think of the Israeli government, and you think that they've done wrong, and you want to talk all this stuff about Zionists, or if you're on the other side and you hate Hamas and Palestine is a crime and whatever else, it's not about any of the shit that you don't actually understand here in America. It's about real people's lives being affected, because there's corruption on both sides. When you go to the core of it, the people that are actually being hurt, we don't hate each other. We could come together and make this movie that showcases that we don't hate each other. But there's actual crimes going on and lives being ruined, and that's the focus of what it not needs to be on. It's not about which side is least bad and who's more morally right, and I'm going to grandstand on Instagram for one side, and I'm going to block you because fuck you, I think you're a Zionist, or fuck you, I think you're... Real lives are being ruined. Like, enough people don't seem to grasp that whatever your worst issue is here in America, outside of actively being harassed for racial profiling, it's not worse than the worst problem that someone else is dealing with in another country. And just people need to get their head out of their asses and really see that this is not something where you can pick one side or the other. It's a conflict that needs to be just brought to a fucking end. And the people that are motivating it on either side need to be dealt with. And whatever you dignify as being dealt with, that's your call. But that's what needs to be done. Because there's bad people on both sides that are ruining the lives of all these innocent people.
Could not have
and Ben
said
Stiller
it
was
better.
hilarious.
Yeah,
sorry, I cut you off.
I'll go on. Ben Stiller was hilarious. I'll agree with you on that tag. But yeah, I agree that the documentary acceptance speech was the most important part of the night. The only actual important part of the night, and which is just
none of this matters.
which is like the fun stuff that we all love, celebrities jerking each other off and shit. It's awesome. Like, that's obviously why.
No, that was a Diddy party. What are you talking
about? Oh yeah. So, wake up in the morning saying fuck P. Diddy.
Yeah,
thank you. But yeah, I appreciate you taking a brief stance to talk about important shit here, because it is like important.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't expect anyone else here to have to comment on that. This is my channel. I'm gonna say what I think. I don't expect anyone else to have to voice an opinion if they don't want to, because it's a tough subject to talk about in general. But I'll
agree with you. You're right. Like, fucking, we got to stop the shit. Fucking, like, and I'll very much, I think too many people want to win and not do the right thing. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. This, yeah, I'll go deeper into the hole than I want to if we keep going. But Barber, JP, I know you talked a little bit, but Barber, any more thoughts on this set of categories before we move on?
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything real surprising here as far as winners. I'm not super familiar with the documentaries. I wasn't able to get to them, so I was one of those. I did pick Porcelain War, but No Other Land was my second choice. But yeah, no, the yeah, all the other technical categories, like those all made sense. Zoe Saldana. I haven't seen the movie, but she's been sweeping, so it was an easy pick. And the only one I did get wrong was the editing. I had chosen Conclave, but I'm pretty sure I had chosen Conclave before I saw Anora, and I was like, it makes sense why Anora won. So no, not yeah. And then all the presenters, I thought they all did a great job. And yeah, the speech that you mentioned was fantastic and probably the best moment of the night.
All right. Any more thoughts here before we go on?
Just to tack on, since I didn't mention Zoe Saldana, and I'm legally legally obligated to mention anything MCU related, her speech was also very meaningful and important. So I don't want to discredit that at all.
All right. Well, then we'll move on here. Following that, we had the In Memoriam segment, which was of course introduced by Morgan Freeman, given a direct tribute to his recently deceased co-star, Gene Hackman. The In Memoriam segment was then followed by the Best Cinematography Award, which was again presented in that Fab Five concept. This went to Lowell Crawley for The Brutalist. Then Penelope Cruz came out to present Best International Feature Film, and The Little Engine That Could, I'm Still Here, took the award over the original intended favorite, Emilia Perez. Mark Hamill then came out and presented Best Original Score, which went to Daniel Bloomberg for The Brutalist. And then we had our third musical performance of the night with the Quincy Jones tribute. So the In Memoriam, I had this information ready to go. Obviously, every year with the In Memoriam, it's a big thing about, like, why wasn't this person here? Why wasn't this person here? So I decided to research, like, how does it actually work? Like, how do they put it together? So the In Memoriam segment is... So the first things first is there's a certain number of slots. Like, if you go back and watch previous shows, there's a range of slots that they work within. It's always a pretty consistent number of includees. And it is a panel of 19 anonymous people, basically a member of every branch of the Academy is included, who all put forth who they believe are the most important people from their respective industry that should be mentioned in the memoriam. And then from there, once they have like a grander wide list, they sort of pipe down who will be listed on TV. Now, it is worth noting that every year the Academy publish a full list of everyone in the industry who has passed away. So a number of the people that you probably think weren't given credit, if you go to the Academy's website, they are often included on the full list. In terms of the television presentation, oftentimes the list is locked in weeks ahead of time, so as to give the Academy time to prepare the presentation, specifically in time with the music that is chosen. Obviously, Gene Hackman being such a great star, two-time Oscar winner, passing very, very close to the awards, they did opt to include him last minute, but others weren't. The other person that I decided to look up, and again, I'm not saying you guys were joking about it, but it was the internet that made jokes, was Shrek's publicist got in, but X person didn't. I decided to look her up because I was genuinely curious what her contribution was outside of them showcasing Shrek. So her name is Fumi Kitahara, and she was a publicist who, over the course of her 30-year career, specifically focused on leading publicity and awards campaigns for animation. And she worked with, at various points, DreamWorks, Aardman, Laika, Netflix, and Disney to lead Oscar campaigns for their films. She was also one of the motivating names behind legitimizing animation films at the Academy. And a lot of the times when animated films broke out of said category and broke into other categories, she was one of the campaigning names behind them. She worked for Disney in the 90s. She worked at DreamWorks from 96 to 2007, helping found the company. And then she spent the rest of her career independently working as a hiree to consult the film. Just some of the movies that she was involved in the promotion of include, pre the award existing, The Lion King, Pocahontas, Toy Story, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and The Prince of Egypt. She also promoted, when working at DreamWorks, Shrek, Chicken Run, and Wallace and Gromit, all of which won the, or Chicken Run didn't, but Shrek and Wallace and Gromit won the Academy Award. Independently, she also helped with Coraline, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, Kubo and the Two Strings, and her most recent win was Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio back in 2022. So just to shine some light on a name that most people won't recognize, again, I get the internet being the internet, but she was more than just Shrek's publicist. She's actually one of the main motivating names behind animation being respected at an Academy level as much as it even is. Again, I know the joke is made here tonight. That's not a shot at anyone here. Just in general, like, that's who she was. That was her career. The reason that Shrek was selected as the clip is because Shrek was the inaugural winner of the Animation Award. It was the first film to ever win Best Animated Feature. With that said, I did think the In Memoriam segment was beautiful. I've always found them having singers sing like an old pop song or something very distracting. So just using the orchestra to compose a classical piece, I thought was a really good move. Shout out for The Brutalist for picking up 2 of your 3 wins here. Good job. Technically, it was a beautifully made film, so cinematography and score I can't argue with. I'm Still Here. I don't know if any of you guys got to see it. I did get to see it. For me personally, it was 5th of the 10 if I had to rank them. Leagues better than Amelia Perez. If I could use the category to shine a light on a film, if I were just picking off personal preference, the movie that I would have given it to was Seed of the Sacred Fig, which was another film that did not get the widest of releases. But it was distributed by Neon, so I'm sure it'll wind up on a streamer eventually. They're usually very good about getting those deals negotiated, and they often partner with Criterion. So if you're a big fan of physical media, I'm sure it'll end up somewhere there eventually as well. And I guess the final thing is the Quincy Jones tribute. Again, I don't even think it was bad. Like, I think Queen Latifah was fine, but you had Quincy Jones in the In Memoriam just moments ago. Like, if you had wanted to do it, you could have just put him at the end and then had her come out and sing and moved on from it. Or you could have had her or Ariana Grande or Cynthia Erivo sing it at the start when we were already doing Wicked and Wiz songs. It just felt very weird to chuck this in separately, again, late in a show that's already going long. It was a very, very weird choice. But yeah, any thoughts on these couple of awards here, or do you guys want to get to the big one?
I'll just throw it. I always love a Queen Latifah performance, so thumbs up for me.
Yeah, she was good. She was good, I should say. It was a very weird choice.
Yeah. My auntie Dana Owens, shout out to my auntie. I do agree with you for the In Memoriam too. Like I said, the SAGs did it perfectly, and they did it pretty good. Just give me a nice orchestra song and full screen it. I've always hated in years past where like they're focusing half on the singer and the video's in the background. You're like, all right, who's that dead guy? You gotta struggle just to read. That's fucking dumb. So I'm, so yeah, full screen it. Just give a nice orchestra song. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barber, any thoughts? All right.
No, yeah, I'm just in agreement.
All right. Well, then let's get to the big one. Record setter Adrian Brody delivers the longest acceptance speech. Possibly. The caveat with this is it's the longest acceptance speech that we have record of. Purportedly, there was a speech way back in the day that went for nearly 8 minutes, but we don't actually have the full archival of the recording. So there's no one that can really back that up factually. It's just if you say it went that long. So in record, Adrian Brody delivers the longest speech in Oscars history. He single-handedly shuts down the orchestra playing him off to continue his speech, to get to the point of his speech, quite frankly, because he didn't really start saying anything until after he shut the orchestra down. And then the show ends, if you're watching on Hulu. So I'm going to not go too deep into the tech part of this, but I did deep research to try and find a reasoning for what happened, because I didn't lose the stream personally. And I was watching on Hulu. So what happened is Hulu was live streaming it through their cable package that they have, and they just made the channel publicly available. But because they were streaming through cable, they had to set a set amount of time for the show. So they made an estimated prediction of about 3.5 hours, or 3 hours, give or take, 3.5 hours, whatever it was. They made an estimated prediction on how long it would go. And it was right at the end of Adrian Brody's speech during the ad break, they hit that 3 hours. So what they needed to do was they had to then go through all the cable programming, change whatever would have played next to continue the Oscar stream, and switch over from one live stream to the other. And that's seemingly where the tech faltered, and it just didn't convert properly, and it shut down a whole bunch of people's access to it. Now, it doesn't seem like there was any consistency in why. It just seems like it was a tech problem, because I don't have like Hulu Live TV. So that wasn't what caused it. It was just seemingly sporadic unluckiness. But with that said, while it is funny to blame Adrian Brody for it, the show had a lot of time wasting before we got to his ass anyways. The Oscars as a whole are to blame for this, and Hulu, frankly, are to blame for this. How did you not have this figured out? How did you not know the show was going to go long? Like, it always does. It's a joke. No Oscar show has ended in 3 hours in years. With that said, how are your guys' viewing experiences impacted? And do you guys have any extreme thoughts on Adrian Brody winning, or do you want to move on to the final three?
I'll say, fuck you, Chad.
Luckily, for whatever reason, Tato's stream never got interrupted, so we were cool. Me and Barber both had it on in the background on our TVs, and it did stop on both of our TVs respectively.
Yeah.
So, I remember we both were organically like, "Oh yeah, I did it for you. Oh, that's weird. I did it for me." But luckily, we watched at the very end. So luckily, we had an okay time. I feel bad for people watching because, like you said, it's not anyone's fault. They watch the same when they watch the first 2.5 hours or 3 hours. So yeah, I wanted to talk about Brody's thing. I didn't mind it. I liked his speech. Like I said, he finally does kind of get to the point more towards the end, but maybe 8 minutes might be too long. I do think what is the time they're given? 3, 2?
So the answer is there is truly no specified time.
Okay. Well, when do they start playing music?
That is the biggest problem.
Well, it's different for every category, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so the answer is no one is given a specified time to work to, and seemingly the decisions to play off people are made based on the pacing of the show. So if the show is moving at a proper and solid pace, then everyone will get the time to deliver their speech. If the show's behind schedule and we start having smaller categories with multiple winners, they will start playing people off.
Yeah.
I will say this year was better than other years previously. I believe only 2 people who won didn't get to say anything at all. It has been worse in years past.
Maybe true.
Anyway, you were saying.
No, because that was gonna be my point. Is that there's definitely been times in the past where I'm like, let them talk. Like they fucking barely began. I felt, like this is the one time. Like cut out again. Going back to before, let's kill the Bond thing and give the speeches another 30 seconds to a minute to marinate. Like I kind of want to hear these people talk to a degree. You know what I mean? Like this is their one time too, potentially that they'll ever get there. There's Brodies that get a second chance and whatnot, but
like to play the other side of it, like. Again, Adrian Brody getting played off. Like, I don't agree with Best Actor getting played off because you're running late and you seemingly think he has nothing to say.
Yeah.
But the best speech of the night, in my opinion, coming from documentary, they got as long as they wanted with no one threatening to play them off because they had an important political message. As someone who agrees with their political message, I don't agree with the amount of subjectivity or the Oscars have when it comes to who gets played off and who doesn't. It does feel very unfair and kind of fucked up at times. But yeah, any other Tato, Barber? Did you have any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, because
and we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next category. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, because now it's like I don't even really remember what his speech was about. I just remember it. My stream ended and I didn't get to. Thankfully Tato's didn't. But if I wasn't on that stream, I wouldn't have been able to see the last couple awards, and that would have irritated me. So sorry, I'm done. Sorry.
I remembered streaming music.
Barber, you gotta pull a Brody and go, no, you turn that off.
Turn that off.
I've been here before.
This isn't my first rodeo. That was probably the cockiest thing he said. Was just like, this isn't.
Yeah,
my
that
first
was some
rodeo.
gangster ass shit. I'll give him that. Like, it just hey, no.
I can't wait for him to come back next year to present the nominees, and he doesn't even do like an opening spiel or anything. He's like, all right, and the nominees are.
All right, and then we'll move on to the final 3 awards here as we wrap this up. As the show basically ended with an Anora sweep. Best Director, Best Picture both go to Sean Baker for Anora. Best Actress goes to Mikey Madison for Anora. Quentin Tarantino presented Best Director, which I think did make for a great moment because Sean Baker has said Quentin Tarantino is an inspiration to him. Emma Stone came out and presented Best Actress. And Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan reunited to present Best Picture. And I can't lie to you, the first thing I thought was the last time we had 2 older co-stars reuniting on this stage, please God, verify that they could read an envelope.
That wasn't their fault. That wasn't their fault to a degree.
No. It wasn't Warren Beatty's fault. Faye Dunaway was sick of his shit and wanted to get off that stage.
No, she saw La La Land, and it's not like La La Land wasn't an obvious front runner, so she just said it. Beatty was kept reading and went, "Why is Emma Stone's name on it? Emma Stone's name wouldn't be on it." Like she just didn't really look at that. So I don't blame her.
Yeah, it's all jokes. But yeah, so Anora wins Best Picture. I would say Best Director and Best Actress kind of go in conjunction with Anora winning Best Picture. So I'll ask you guys first, and Barber, I'll start with you since you say you watched it like right before the show?
Yeah, I watched it that morning.
So of the 10 or of the 10 you were able to see, was Anora a worthy Best Picture winner?
I think so. I still think my favorite would be Dune Part 2. I thought that was just a great sci-fi epic. But yeah, no, I think Anora checks all the boxes. I think it's got fantastic performances. The screenplay, like it checks all the boxes that you want in a Best Picture winner. And I think it's one of the better winners of the last decade, also. So I think it's the performance from Mikey Madison. Even though I did have Demi Moore as my prediction. Again, I made those before I watched Anora. I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I would have done better in my predictions because I also picked Brady Corbet for director. But yeah, after seeing Anora, it's like, yeah, I understand all the wins. It's a fantastic movie. I mean, I was even rooting for Borisov. Like, if there's ever going to be a time for a shock, like this is it, because I thought he was fantastic. I think he's a future winner. I think he's fantastic. I'm really excited to see what he does in the future. So it was really fantastic. The first half, it was like, all right, are we just going to watch people have sex for 2 hours? But then that second half, like, it really ramps up, and it is,
hey, the man appreciates and respects his sex workers. They're going to get to do their job on screen.
Yeah. So no, I think I have it third of the nominees that I've seen, right behind The Substance. I think The Substance was just, such a unique, and I like the practical effects that they were able to do, and the story, and Demi Moore I thought was fantastic. So it would have been my third choice. I haven't seen all of them yet. I haven't seen I'm Still Here or Amelia Perez. I don't know if I'll ever see Amelia Perez just because of the word of mouth since it's come out. But yeah,
unless you're a completionist.
I am, so I probably will, but it might be the last one of the nominees that I watch.
JPO?
Yeah, so yeah, shout out to Sean Baker. I know he did the whole thing about like, we got to get back to theaters. This is where it belongs. And I was like, I thought Florida Project was a perfect at-home movie, and so was Red Rocket. But Anora was could have been a good theater watch. I think Anora is definitely a worthy Best Picture winner as well. It was in my 10 of the year. Yeah, I am a Dune guy as well, but I'm not surprised that Anora got it. I'm not surprised Mikey got it either. There's been a precedent set in the past before that, the prestige actress gets upset by the hot young actress because that's who's voting at the Academy or old men. So not surprised Mikey got it. And also, too, I will argue, I think Mikey's performance is a little bit more well-rounded. I thought she gave a tremendous performance from, just from the dance club to when the marriage is breaking apart. That final scene, I think, is very well acted and heartbreaking. So I kind of thought Mikey also deserved it personally. Yeah.
Tato?
Yep. All of these movies, I've said it a few times before, they kind of end up in a hodgepodge of where I just didn't love the movie. All of them are gorgeous cinematically. The scores were good on all of them. The acting is really good in all of them. Anora did end up actually in the middle of the pack for me. So I have Wicked and Dune are both in my top 5, and those obviously are more IP, bombastic, less kind of Oscar baity. Like, I don't think any of them really had a chance at Best Picture kind of things. But then we go down to A Complete Unknown was my next one. So of the ones that maybe could have won it, I think I have A Complete Unknown. Nickel Boys, I actually thoroughly enjoyed. I have it above the next ones. And then I go down to Conclave and Anora, which are right next to each other. They're both they both hit me again with the stunning visuals, fantastic performances, but just stories that I don't I didn't fall in love with. But excellent movies. So I wouldn't have been upset, honestly, with anything winning unless it was maybe Emilia Perez, which again I didn't see. So maybe it's not fair for me to poo-poo it without seeing it, but I am gonna pass on that one. I do eventually want to get to. Yeah. I do eventually want to get to the substance, and I'm not there. I'm still here. Which one is it?
I'm still here.
Yeah,
I'm not there is the sequel.
Yeah, there you go. That's the other Bob Dylan one, which is part of the confusion of all of it. The only pick of the big 6 that I got wrong was I did give it to Demi Moore. I thought they were going to give her the career achievement award kind of thing here, but JPO's point was proven right, so I'll have to keep that one in the back pocket for next year.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I'm going to bite back just a little bit on which I on the outset I think you're correct, but I'm gonna fight back against the narrative that the Oscar love awarding the younger person over the older, because this was another thing so if you haven't noticed over the years, when I get interested in something, I research it, and this was a point that I kept hearing, so I decided to actually look into it. Of the 10 youngest winners of Best Actress of all time, only 2 of them fall within the last 15 years of the Oscars. Jennifer Lawrence is the second youngest winner ever at 22 years, 193 days. And Mikey Madison does go on that list, 25 years, 342 days for Anora. But even more than that, in that same 15-year time span, if you take out Jennifer Lawrence and if you take out Mikey Madison, only 3 other actresses have been 30 or younger and won Best Lead Actress. Emma Stone won it for La La Land, and she was more than far considered the frontrunner that year. Brie Larson won it under 30 for Room. And then Natalie Portman was just under the age of 30 when she won it for Black Swan. So 5 times in the last 15 years means 1 out of every 3 times they're going to give it. But even just in the last 5 years, obviously Emma Stone won it last year. She's currently in her 30s, and no disrespect to any of these women, but Michelle Yeoh and Frances McDormand, who both won it, are on the older side, you would say. And Jessica Chastain is closer to 50 than she is to 30. So while I think the narrative discussion is maybe more so parlayed by the fact that that's what the substance is literally about, and she did not win the award for Best Actress. But if you look at the actual numbers in recent history, they don't actually back that narrative up. I think it's pretty fair. And statistically, you're more likely to win Best Actress in your 40s than you are like 30s or younger. Which I don't know how old Demi Moore is offhand, but she's 62. God damn. All right. Hey Demi, how's it going? No. So
I was gonna say she was like 40 when she
does
did
like
it
younger
2
guys.
decades ago. So
yeah. And in terms of Anora being a worthy winner, it was far from my personal favorite of the group, but I absolutely believe that it's a worthy winner. I think Sean Baker is on the forefront of arguing for independent film, and I think that Anora is an achievement in that. I think The Brutalist is as well, and I actually did prefer The Brutalist to Anora, but Anora is certainly a worthy winner. Oh, I guess that's our time. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching the show. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. We've also gone over our estimated time, but it was all worth it for a good discussion. We also have a game that we're going to play. Be sure to tune in because we'll upload that in a separate video tomorrow. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for my panelists. I'm gonna get louder and talk over me. Have a good night, everybody. Tune in next year.